Hey everybody, this is Chuy Plays, and today I want to talk about 10 indie games that are on the Nintendo Switch that maybe you missed. I've played a ton of indies on this console. It's such a great place for them to live, and these are just like a huge variety of games that I think offer a bunch of different experiences that you don't always get from big AAA titles. I went all out on this list to find as many different types of experiences that I think a lot of you would like. So let's not wait too long to get into it, and let's just talk about these games already. The first game I want to talk about is Tumbleseed, and it seems like this one got its origins from a really obscure arcade game called Ice Cold Beer. In this game, you're basically controlling a bubble at the bottom of a beer glass and trying to navigate it to the top. It's a really interesting concept and a fun mechanic where you have a ball on a bar and you can only raise either side, and the ball will kind of roll along the bar as you go up, and you're trying to avoid obstacles. Tumbleseed takes that idea, but instead you're a seed and you're trying to make it to the top in order to be planted and grow into a magnificent tree. At least that's what I assume the ending is going to be, because I haven't actually beaten it. This game is difficult. Luckily, the developers know this and have since added to the game a bunch of little challenge modes where you can try out the different levels and learn them well so you can eventually make it to the top. This game is a roguelike, meaning you're probably gonna die a lot, and every single time you do, you start from the bottom. Luckily, there are a bunch of different powers that you can experiment with and learn the game gradually. Really though, this one is for people who really like arcades and just the challenge that comes from playing arcade games where they're basically developed in order to take as many quarters from you as possible, but luckily this game's really cheap and you can spend a set amount of quarters and eventually get to the top. The next game I'm going to talk about is for fans of Stardew Valley, and it's called Littlewood. Littlewood takes place after the hero has already saved the world, but you have lost your memory, so it's up to you to just live your life after the fact. You're building up a town, making friends, and just living your life. As your town grows, you'll attract more and more friends and more personalities that you can get to know and enjoy. But my favorite part of this game is really the customization and kind of the puzzles involved with new friends that move in. You can build an item inside of each house, and that will tell you what the characters want. This can be different items, different furniture, and even where they want to live. Some of them want to live close to the museum, others want to live close to the shop. And on top of that, there are places where they don't want to live near, so it's kind of like rearranging your town and figuring out how to align it so people are happy. And all of this is surrounded by a bunch of gathering and foraging and crafting and all of these life sim aspects that make, I guess, people just like Stardew Valley, you know? This one also has a really good story associated with the characters, so it's just such an addictive game. It's so delightful, and each time I picked it up, it gave me that same feeling of like, alright, I'll just play one more day and then I'm done. Oh, and I forgot to mention, there's also a card game within this one, and oh man, it's pretty fun. It was really fun to learn how to play that one. But yeah, if you love Stardew Valley and you want something that's in that same kind of realm, this is a good game to hop into. So this next one is called Gris, and it is kind of more of a platforming experience than like a challenging platformer. And what I mean by this is like, it is one of the most artistic indie games that I've played. It's so good. You play as a silent protagonist who's trying to get their voice back, and you do this by basically exploring the world, and every time you do and get further, you get more and more confidence, and then your singing voice starts to come back, and color gets brought back to the world. So while the world may start as like kind of a sketch, you do start to fill in the color, and they're beautiful watercolors that start to come in, and more of the world starts to blossom and bloom, and you just see how beautiful it is. The game really focuses on its music and its ambience and just like giving you this feeling through the sounds, and it's really nice to travel through it and just see how powerful an ending that creates. If you're a fan of watercolor or painting or just like emotions being evoked through sound and music, then this is the type of experience that you need to play. They're seriously some of the most beautiful moments in this game. The next game on my list is a tower defense game, and this one has a really funky art style to it, but it's called Pixel Junk Monsters 2. You play as a little tiki clay-mated type of character, and it's your job to protect your family from the oncoming beasts. Like all tower defense games, you basically build little towers to protect you from them and defeat the monsters before they reach your family, but it's got a cool little 3D vibe to it. You can run around the world freely and set up your traps all over the path, and then on top of that, there's multiplayer. You can either play local or online, but it's such a unique little game that I've never really seen multiplayer in tower defense games like this. I feel like they've always been single player experiences to me. But really, the charm of the claymated style and the fact that you can go into first person mode to see the world, it's adorable. It's a really cute tower defense game, and I think more people should play it, honestly. But I will say it's also very difficult. It's a pretty difficult tower defense game, but I think as you add friends to it, and if you convince your other friends to play it, then you're probably gonna have a better time with it. Alright, this one is for the Paper Mario fans out there, and I've talked about this one quite a bit, but Bug Fables is... I still think it's the best Paper Mario game on Switch, and they actually added the original Paper Mario game to Switch through the N64 program. So Bug Fables is definitely a love letter to Paper Mario, but it does take some liberties that make it different and overall a different experience from Paper Mario. For example, you have a set party of 3 characters, you always play as those 3, and you don't really switch off your partners. That said, they did mess with the mechanics and made it so you can rotate through your partners, and that would change their attack damage and their values and their defense, and I don't know, it was just a really cool system that made it feel a little bit strategic in a way that Paper Mario isn't. But at the same time, you still have kind of the badges that would give you different powers and abilities and strengths and weaknesses depending on what your strategy was. So that is similar to Paper Mario. And then of course there is the kind of paper art style that is attributed to Bug Fables as well. For a small indie game, I mean, the game's really substantial. It took me over 40 hours to beat, and that last boss was incredibly challenging. So for anybody missing that classic Paper Mario experience, I mean, yes, you can go and play the original Paper Mario if you sign up for the N64 expansion pack, but I really recommend dipping your toes into Bug Fables because it is such a good twist on that formula, and while also keeping like what we loved about old Paper Mario. This next one is a puzzle game called Carto, and this one has adorable art style as well. You play as a young little cartographer, and you basically get lost, separated from your grandma, and it's up to you to bring your map back together and find your way to her. So you'll explore a little world, and as you explore you'll find different pieces to the map, and you can actually place those really freely for you to explore. The challenge comes from placing the tiles correctly, or at least figuring out the little puzzle that is left to solve with putting the map together. It's pretty fun experimenting too, because you can move the map pieces and the land physically moves itself. It relocates itself to where you placed it on the map. It's such a clever design, and then the story on top of it has this really like folk tale feeling to it. Like, I don't know, I'd really like to look into it more and wonder, because I wonder if it does come from old folk tales or something that I just don't recognize. But it's a sweet game, beautiful art, wonderful story, and so many fun and quirky characters that you run into, and just the whole experience is quite endearing. Alright, Animal Crossing fans, if you are tired of playing New Horizons, it's been a couple years, and you want something new and fresh, Cozy Grove is the way to go. I do want you all to know that I was provided a code for this game on Xbox, but I have also bought it on Switch for myself, and honestly, that's where I played it most. In Cozy Grove, you play as a spirit scout, and it's your job to come to this island and bring these ghostly bears to peace. You heard correctly, they are all ghosts, and they have all seen the end of their life, and they have to come to terms with that. So, as you can imagine, it can get pretty emotional at times. And while that's the main story, there are a bunch of different gameplay aspects that I think Animal Crossing fans will love. There's tons of items to collect, a lot of decorating, and so many fish and bugs to catch, and so many just things to wander around and discover in the world. And the team has been doing a great job of continuously updating the game. They've added events, they've added holidays, they've added so many new items and so many things that you can do that you couldn't do in the game when it initially released. And I almost forgot to mention, it all runs in real time. I will say that the first week can feel a little bit slow in this game, and it may feel like there isn't quite a lot to do, but literally, like, after you hit a week in this game, things open up and there is just so much that you can do on a daily basis. This one honestly gave me the feeling of playing my first Animal Crossing game again. There's so many little surprises and unique quirks to it that I think I just don't get that feeling from newer Animal Crossing games, but this one really brought me back to the beginnings of that series. So yeah, if you're interested in something similar to Animal Crossing, but a little different with a pretty cute art style, Cozy Grove might be the right game for you to pick up next. Alright, Garden Story. I have talked about this game before, I've made a video about it, and the main thing that I got out in that video was that while this game may look like a farming sim or life sim, it's really more of a top-down action RPG akin to things like Zelda. I can't say enough good things about this game. It's seriously adorable, it's all about climate change and the environment, and you meet so many great little characters on your journey, and it's such a cool and unique little story. I love it. The basic premise is that you play as Concord. They're a little purple grape, and they are now the newest guardian of Springhaven. As a guardian, it's their job to attend to all of the residents' needs and basically save the world. There's a nice mystery that's weaved in throughout the game, and honestly, I'm not going to tell you much about it because it's really worth playing from beginning to end and seeing how it plays out. But I do want to say that there are a bunch of really cool little life sim aspects to the game that are mixed into the gameplay. There's a little quest board that always has jobs for you to do from the residents. Some quests require you to defeat enemies that only appear during the night. Others have you making deliveries. There's just a really good variety of quests that you're given throughout the game. So if you want a more action-packed game with a really nice story on climate change, I can't recommend Garden Story enough. Alright, so this one is technically a board game, but it was also turned into a video game, and it is called Wingspan. Wingspan is an engine-building game where you're basically just trying to attract birds to your nature preserve. There are tons and tons of different birds to collect, and they all have different powers, and the goal is really to create an engine that gets you the most points each turn. These points can be earned by placing birds, laying eggs, eating food. There's just a whole variety of bird-like actions that are taken in order to get points. The Switch game is great, it has cross-play, you can play online with people, and one of the greatest features is that you can actually have an online game that just goes for a long time because you have 24 hours to answer each turn. You can have up to 10 games running at once, and it's just wonderful. You just check in throughout the day, play your turn, and then you're good. And this is a board game that's really like, I feel like you're competing against yourself. You're trying to get a higher score than you did last time. Yes, there's a winner in the end, whoever has the most points wins, but really, I feel like you're more inspired to just do better for yourself, you know? Also, every time you play a bird, it will read you a fact about that bird, and that's pretty awesome. I love a little bit of education, right? Alright, and the last game I want to talk about is Toem. Many of you have probably seen this game in the indie world directs that happen here and there, but if you haven't played it, I loved it. It was so good. You play as a little character trying to see Toem, which is this big visual phenomenon. But in order to get there, you have to use your camera. That's right, this is a little bit of a camera game where you're taking pictures of different things, and a bunch of people throughout the world will give you quests, and as you complete these quests, you get stamps on your stamp card, and those stamps go toward your bus ride to the next region. The ultimate goal being to reach the place where you can experience Toem. It's got a variety of different worlds and a bunch of different sceneries where you can take pictures, and all of the tasks are just adorable. They found so many cute ways to change up the gameplay and make it interesting each time. It was really hard to put this game down, and luckily it's a pretty short and sweet adventure, so it doesn't overstay its welcome, but I will tell you that once you pick it up, you're probably just going to be playing that for the next 6 hours. Also, the developers put their own pets in the game, so whenever you find them and take a picture, it'll give you their little name. It's adorable. Well, there you have it. Those are 10 indie games that I think you may have missed on Switch. Let me know if you played any of these. Let me know if you have any favorites that I didn't mention, but these are some of my favorites and ones that I'm really hoping that people actually check out and play. So yeah, feel free to leave a comment sharing your 10 favorite indies, 5, however many you want to share, and let me know what you liked playing. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you all next time. Bye!